And I was in the middle, like a little chef, pumped up, on my heels, starting to talk to them. So I said, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I remember she was called Marie-Jo, incredible woman. She came to me, she was smaller than me, finished speaking, and she said, okay. She nodded her head. She came next to me, she took my hand, and she said, Laura, we are here to work with you, huh? We want to support you. Lucas, I cried. I got emotional because I was like, she read through me,
Yeah.
and she saw the tears, I wiped it very fast, and then she smiled and she said, we know how hard it is for you guys.
Welcome to or welcome back to Fashion Career Stories. My name is Lucas Silva Edwards. I am a career strategist and leadership coach specialized in the fashion and luxury industry. My role is to help you design a successful life and career in one of the most glamorous industries in the planet, but also one of the most competitive. For that reason, I interview each week fashion professionals at different stages of their career in order to decode their best practices, tactics, and strategies. My hope for you is that you will find in this conversation some inspiration and insights that will help you build your professional journey in the world of fashion and luxury. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. And there is no one better to talk about this topic than Laura Brown. Laura and I are friends, and we go way back to our time at the Institut Français de la Mode. And from day one, I have noticed her charisma and her capacity to lead people. Along the year, she has been able to do so in a large diversity of environment. Sometimes in well-known companies, like the Parisian department store Le Printemps, but sometimes in more entrepreneurial projects, like Ethipop, the first Parisian incubator / pop-up store dedicated to brands with a deep focus on sustainability. And that was at a moment when nobody was talking about it. I want to take this moment to chat with Laura because she is a practitioner. She is constantly working to become the best version of herself, to become the best leader possible, and also to transmit her knowledge to others through her books. In this episode, you will learn about how to develop your leadership style, how to leverage uniqueness in people in order to build high-performance teams, the ingredients to advance inside the company without compromising your values, the power of journaling to obtain clarity of thoughts, and how to choose the battle really worth fighting for. I also invite you to connect with Laura on LinkedIn and to go discover her first two books. Number one, Branded, which tell her story in the fashion and luxury industry. And the second one, Un jour j'irai en Afrique, which translates as One day I will go to Africa, a more personal book about self-discovery. And with no further ado, please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Miss Laura Brown. Psst. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. This is one of the most efficient ways to help us grow and entice people to listen to the show. So don't be shy, hit those 5 stars and show us your love in the comment section. Hi, Miss Laura Brown. How are you?
Hello. Fine. Fine. I'm very happy to see you here. So I'm fine.
Yeah, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you too. It's been a
Thank
it's been a long time. We were
It's
chatting
been
about that just before the podcast, so
it's
it's
been a
really
very
good
long
to have
time.
you.
Very good to have you too.
Just to give a little bit of context for our listeners, so we met 11 years ago, something like that,
Yes.
at school at the IFM, and since then we have been crossing paths and exchanging and about fashion, about what does it mean to work in this industry, how hard sometimes it is to work in this industry,
Mhm.
and we have been, let's say, partners in crime in trying to make us part
Yes.
in this industry. So for me, it was I was sure I wanted to have you at any point in this podcast, and life made it that you contacted me not so long ago, so we catch up again and we say, let's do it. It's time.
It is
So
the
I'm really
time.
happy to have you.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah. So Laura, we were chatting earlier just before we start about a really interesting topic that I thought it would be nice and original to start with. Is about the topic of wigs and
Yes.
women and what it represents for at least a black woman and maybe for other type of women as well. What it represents for you and what is the role of the wig maybe in the professional setting?
Okay, I will speak for myself because I don't know about other women. But when I get into a role into work, weeks are definitely a way to ease my way into the corporate sector, into the corporate ladder. Um, Especially in France. I don't know, it's maybe different in the US because it's a bigger country, it's more diverse. It was built out of many communities who went there. So they're more open to that. But in France, it was definitely a way for me to be like in my armor, you know, my hair, my way to, I dress is an armor, is a way to protect myself. It's also a way to feel comfortable in my skin. But I'm playing a game and I'm very aware that the Laura who is wearing her wig, her makeup, her dresses, and who is getting into her director or sales manager role is not the everyday Laura that look Lucas, and that we will have drinks and have fun and party on the weekend because I'm very aware that when you go into an organization you have rules and yeah, and you define codes and way that you have to behave yourself. So it helps make it easier. It helps focusing on the work and not having such and such questions about your hair and whatsoever. And I'm already ready for the people who's going to say yes, but we are living in a world that is diverse and everything. But I'm working since I'm the age of 14, and I can tell you that at a certain level, people are still kind of old fashioned and old school. So uh, it depends on if you are going into an organization to do a protest, or if you are going into an organization to make money and to have experience and learn and grow your career, and that you want people to focus on that, have that easily. It's up to you. But I realize throughout the years that yeah, different certain kind of hairstyles really make it easier for me. Second of all, it's so quick and fast in the morning. So like every woman, like yeah, you are in a hustle, especially when you have a family settings, if you have to drop off kids to school or whatsoever, and you just have to flack that wig on your head and just run out to work. Um, it's funny because
Right.
we were chatting before. I was telling you that many people, when we talk about wig today in the pop culture, they relate wigs with what we know now. So Beyonce, Cardi B, whatsoever. But my first relationship with wigs, it was with incredible figures, sorry, like Cleopatra or Marie Antoinette. So I make fun of that at work because when people say, "Oh, it's funny," because they know it's a wig, you know.
Yeah.
Especially my first day at work, often wigs I wear them in winter. So if you hire me or if I started work in spring or summer, my hair are short. You know me.
Yeah. It's a
So
seasonal trend.
for me, yes, for me, yes. So when they see me with my wig, then they are like, okay, we know it's a wig. So, oh, they always go like this. Oh, it's surprising, you know, it's amazing. And usually I often answer yes. It's as amazing as Cleopatra or Marie Antoinette. And then they smile, I smile, and we go for the next topic.
I love it. I love the how you compare it to, yeah, back in the days, Marie Antoinette and all those powerful women. So
Yes.
when I was hearing you talking about it and about especially that relationship to power, that relationship to kind of an armor role, it made me thought about like my thesis I did at the IFM. I don't know if you remember. It was about high heels
Yes,
and
I
what
remember.
high heels, yeah, what high heel represent for women. Why is it so attractive for women and men? and
Hmm.
uh, and in it, one of the things that I discovered that I thought was really interesting was the fact that, yeah, high heels give some power to women just by the position of their body, how they stand.
Hmm.
It's more
Hmm.
straight. It's higher. So let's say if we are in front of a man, at least you're able like to kind of stand in front of him.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, there is that the noise that make the hills when you arrive. At the same time, it's a weapon of seduction, and
Yes.
I believe as well the wigs, because you're able like to, to, yeah, you seduce in some way as well with it, and it gives you, yeah, it's a transformation of who you are, and you enter in that type of character. And so it made me thought, yeah, there is different elements like that that women and power have been using all along the years
Of
to
course.
kind of assert their authority, and sometimes it's not so easy.
Of course. It's so funny that you are bringing the word, the magical word is seduction and sensuality. For years, if you take a little bit of, if you take a step back, people, I don't know who people, but let's say, I don't want to be the feminist here, but the patriarchy kind of, pointed out sensuality and seduction as something quite negative in the workplace. But throughout the years and the centuries, it has been one of the strongest weapon for women to
Yeah,
be navigating into power places, seduction and sensuality. It doesn't mean that they're gonna, I don't know, have sex with it, no matter who or what, but it means that the aura, the shine that vibrates around women when they wear heels, when they have their beautiful perfumes, when they
yeah,
work in incredible dresses, it says some things and means some things. And cherry on the cake, if you work into fashion, you cannot not be into your character of sensuality. It doesn't mean that you are forced to wear heels or wigs, but it means that, of course, you like to charm. That industry is a charming industry. We are in the creative industry. It's culture. It's a love language. You have to like to charm some kind of way.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's the industry of dreams. So
Yes.
a dream, it's appealing, it's seductive, it's intoxicating sometimes. So
Yes.
it is a good analogy. When I hear you, and especially preparing for this conversation, I was thinking about what are the, let's say, the key words when I think about you, Laura. And one of them was leadership. I think that's something that it's really unique about you, and that you, as you were talking, there is a perfume in you. It's like something that it's, I don't know how to express it, but you feel it, you taste it. Is that really your way, your vision, your ambition, and your leadership? It's something really strong in you, and I want to, of course, talk about it, how you have maybe developed that in your work and with your teams, because you have led teams. Is
Yes.
that something that you always had in you? Is that something that you developed through time, maybe through some artifice, as we're talking about the wigs? How
Yeah,
did
it's
you
very
start developing that skill?
it's a very good question. It's a very good question. I think, but I'm not sure, that my father uh, pass it on to me because he was his nickname when he was a soccer player back in the days. It was
Yeah.
back in the days. Was his nickname was Legend, and he was very soon, I think, in his career, a coach for teams in France, in Morocco, in West Africa, and in the US. for soccer teams. And then he did it also later in his career with a non-profit organization. But he always, coach at home and with his team. So maybe that he had that drive and that energy, and I feel that he maybe passing on to me. Um, it's funny because when I hear you saying that, as far as I can go, I always had huge group of friends, and it's maybe my energy, but yes, I think he planted this little seed, and of course, it grew out throughout the years. And this is the more energetic part. But uh, I come from a very simple and modest family, so money was always important as a discussion to say, okay, you are not going to go study just to like school. You are going to go study to get a job.
Yeah.
And um, I used to look at the market, and when I used to look at jobs, just to by curiosity to say, okay, which jobs are interesting in terms of work and money wise, and that I feel I could handle, it was always um, managers roles, always roles into management. And it's also the jobs that are more paid because you are in charge of people. It's a
Exactly.
fact. So I water this energy of liking to be leading things, because it started also with nonprofits very soon. When I was a student, I also took part in my father nonprofit. So I was managing projects and I was managing little groups of people, and then it grew out of time into work, and I nourish it with my studies. But the funny thing is, uh, I know you will relate. At school, we have management program, we have management courses, but we do no management.
No
We
management.
we work as group work. So they say, oh, but it's a little bit of management because you are a group and you're managing a project. Yes, but when I started managing people, it had very little to do, to put it in a positive way, it has very little to do with what you learn at school, because the reality of dealing with human beings on a daily basis has nothing to do with being at school, enjoying learning and growing with your friends. So yeah, I think I didn't have it. I think no one has it in them, but it depends on your surroundings, your education, what your parents do also, because I recognize other leaders, and usually when you speak to them, a lot of them have parents who were kind of leaders or managers as a job. And but what makes it maybe more communicative, it's my love of human beings. I think I think we are very lucky, even though we are going through hard times, not to say the
Yeah.
S word. And human is what will make us so much different from AI. So, yeah, you have to like people to like management, I guess.
I love what you're saying about that. It's not something that we, especially maybe have in us, but it's something that grow from the environment, maybe from the people that inspire us. In your
Hmm.
case, your father or somebody else in the surrounding. What would you say are the maybe those key lesson or philosophy that your father transmitted you as a leader or as a coach? Because I imagine yourself as a leader with teams, there is moment you have to coach people. Is there any lessons or kind of philosophy that he gave you?
Yes, there is the one. He didn't give it to me, but he showed it to me two ways: by who he was, but also by me looking at him coaching his team. You cannot change people.
Oh,
So many people think that management is taking people, putting them in a template where they will get out of that template, just as they want them to be for the organization. Wrong. This leads to uh, people being let off or people getting out of the organization. My father taught me that you have to look at the unique selling point, or you have to look at the unique personality of the person that you have in front of you, and you have to work with that, and you have to make that at its best, for people to be able to feel confident enough to to perform. This is how you get high performance, actually, by accepting how unique people are, and leveraging their uniqueness. Yes, you
Oh,
can't
I
change
love
people.
it.
You can't change people. That is the lesson, the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah, no, it's amazing because you never hear it so clearly in terms of management. You always have that idea that we lead, we maybe change people in some way, transform them. But it's true that if you look at them for who they are and don't try to change them, but make like the surrounding, the environment, the mission align with who they are, that's where you get the high performance. So
Yes,
it is quite a simple but really powerful tip and advice
you
to
can
give.
make them. You can help them change, but there is a difference. Growing is changing. That
It's
was
true.
my way of seeing things. I was like, okay, growing is changing. So if I make them grow, but I don't try to change them, I just use the potential and make them grow, then they will change. And I just have to make this growth align with the growth that I want for the organization. Uh, Nevertheless, you have to remind them that nobody is forced to work anywhere. So if they come and apply in the organization, we accept a certain minimum of rules and foundation. But in that square, you can make so many things.
No, a good point. And I wanted to kind of go back to your, let's say, your first encounter with fashion, because
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't start studying fashion or fashion business. So can you maybe give us a little bit of the where was the kind of the chapters of your life before you kind of decided to get into fashion and why fashion was appealing to you?
Okay. So I started my studies in communication and in business. I did my A levels. I don't know if we still call that that, but we used to call it that. So I did my A levels in social and economic studies. And in France, A levels are very important. So my question was, I want to understand the work. I want to understand the world. Sorry, where we live, and I realized that there is people and organizations and money, and so I want to understand that. What is the name of that? It's social economics. So I'm going to do my A levels in social economics. And then when I did that, it opened the world to me in terms of studies that I could go through. And by a very young age, I knew that I didn't want to go to the university, like the pure university, because I needed to somehow have a little sense of practice. So I went to it's a technical school, so it's in between university and professional schools, where you have both of it, and it's called um, University of Technology, and I specialize in communication. I did 2 years, and then my bachelor in international communication in Maastricht, in the Netherlands. And I chose the Netherlands, always a strategic choice too, because at the time we were going through a lot of rules and regulations in terms of the bachelor master um, program. In France, it was not applied yet, so we have to find equivalents. And I thought, okay, if I choose a very good school in Europe, it would be easier for me to come back with that and go directly into my master program and not come back and do a bachelor year again. So I did that. I loved it. Studying in the Netherlands was an enlightenment for me in terms of education, because first I wanted to stop after my bachelor, and they really opened my eye. It was really eye opening, and I came back and I did master also in a technical university. It was in, well, it used to be called differently, but it was in international business and management. 2 years. So it was 6 months in school, 6 months in a company, 6 months in school, 6 months in a company. So the thing is, at the time, the Republic told us, well, you do a master, you will have 5 years, and you have a wonderful job in a great company, making 4 to 5 thousand per month, and the life will be fun, wonderful. And it wasn't that. So when I came, so I
Welcome
was,
to reality.
welcome to reality. So when I got out of my master, the last 6 months was an internship that I did in real estate in Paris. I chose it because I always knew that real estate was something important or interesting, at least for me. And at some point, I would use what I learned in that company. Long story short, for me, companies are just schools on field. So I always saw that like that. And if I get fulfilled, it was cool. If I didn't, I would change. So I did my internship in that company. It was a startup. They were the ancestors of Airbnb. Their and this is a very interesting way of how I got into fashion. Their headquarters were in Paris, Rue du Sentier, in the second quarter. For those who know, today, 2023, Rue du Sentier is Silicon Sentier, so it's like the Silicon Valley in Paris. But for the real people who know, Rue du Sentier was in the middle of the neighborhood of fabrics. It's where most of the companies uh, doing fabrics were implanted. That's how Sandro Mage, Claudie Pierlot were born. That's how many brands were born and where they were based. In even one of my old clients, it was Claude Derry. They are more or less around that area. That's the roots of fabric. So I did 2 to 3 years in that company, and I was like, damn, I know that with this, my brain and my studies, I will never become, for my whole life, a real estate agent. So, what am I going to do? So, because at lunch, when I was going to get my food, I was walking around and I could always see nice girls wearing cool dresses, getting in, getting out buildings, but I didn't know where they were going. So I started looking at the signs, those beautiful Haussmannian buildings in front, outside the main door. You always have all the signs of the companies. And then I started seeing all kind of brands that I know. And I was like, damn, I'm just next door. Just I maybe should just apply. So I started applying, and the response were always the same. Sorry, you don't have a fashion diploma. Sorry, you don't have a fashion diploma. Sorry, you don't have a fashion diploma. So I went to see my boss and I told him that I wanted to quit. We really had a great relationship. So he said, okay, you know what? Do you have a project? I said, yes, I think I want to go into fashion. He said, oh, really? I said, yeah. But I don't think I want to be the fashion designer because I was never interested about the design part. I like it, but it was not where I knew my value would be. But I told him, I think I can help designers. I can help businesses as a manager, that I can do. And what was also the trigger is that in that company, one of my colleagues, were a very good friend, Fanny Prairie, she became very quickly my manager. And we were 2 to 3 years in between. So I knew that the time that I had a manager role, it was going to take 5 to 10 years. And I was like, nah,
Hmm.
I want something faster. And I was like, it was a time where MBAs, postgraduate were very sexy and that they would get you faster into roles that you wanted. So I was my office, right in front of my office, it was ES Mod. So first I went there, but the school were looking like a craftsmanship designer atelier. So I was like, I know this is not for me. And then I started looking, searching, and then I found out about IFM. Institut Français de la Mode. And I was like, damn, just already the name, tell me something big about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I started looking at the program. I was like, okay, this is it. They started with a management program. So they understood the fact that designers and creative needed managers to make them grow or to work with them to make their business grow. And when you go to the roots of IFM, you see the story about Pierre Berger. Huge
Yeah.
inspiration for me. Incredible businessman, incredible creator too, you know, on his
Mhm.
own terms. I was like, I want to go there. This is the school for me. So I negotiated with my company. They let me off, which allows me to because I had worked my quasi all my youth years because I started working very soon. So I accumulated a certain amount of money that I could invest in my studies, and I did that. And I started EFM. That's how I wanted to have that fashion diploma that all the brands were saying you need a fashion diploma. So that's
I
how
love
I
it.
got.
It's so good. Yeah, I think we never talk about it, about how fashion enter in your life, and I love that it was just like you were looking at people near to your job and say, "Hey, the office is just here. Why don't I
That was
apply there?"
crazy.
It's crazy. That's why I always like to ask that question about how fashion enter in the life of people, because we have so many different type of stories. Sometimes, you know, it's the grandma. Sometimes it's somebody who worked there. Sometimes,
Mhm.
like on my case, it was like in high school, but seeing people style, like, you know, the cool kids, and wondering
Mhm.
like, why is it like fashion is so important? Why the cool kids always have like
Mhm.
the cool brands? What does it say in terms of tribes and things like that? It was one of the interrogation I had about it. So it is everybody has a different origin story with fashion.
And to go back
Um,
to what you were saying at the beginning, to go back to it, when you asked me about when we were talking about sensuality, seduction,
mhm,
those people, men or women, but it was mostly women in the sentier, they had that energy glowing. They were glowing, you know, the way they were dressed.
mm,
And it was not about the brands, it was about the style. So I was
yeah,
like, there is something about a secret world that I don't know, but that surrounds me every day. And it has to be a business and an industry behind it. That's how I found out about fashion. Yeah.
that's a cool one. Before we continue on your journey, and especially your first jobs in fashion, I wanted to kind of double click on the way you think, because you it feels that you have a really strategic mindset. You said like, yeah, I wanted to go a little bit faster than, you know, the norm. How did you start developing that, let's say, strategic mind, and what would be kind of the advice you would give somebody kind of studying, trying to figure out where they want to go?
Was it so funny because this is the heartbeat topic of my book, you know?
Ah,
Um,
perfect.
yes, it's about making a plan, having a strategy. You don't go out. I don't believe that you go into the workforce not knowing what you're going to do. Maybe it's because of the people that I admire, uh, people that inspires you, people that inspires me, from Pierre Berger to Bernard Arnault to even Beyonce. Or there is the talent, there is what you like, what you're good at, what your parents gives you, because often it comes to those two three things.
Mhm.
But then it also goes to the plan. Okay, I see all of this. What kind of life do I want? You know, that was my thing. What kind of life do I want? What kind of lifestyle do you want? And I figured it out very fast that we were living in a social, economical world with different impact, but based on capitalism, sorry. And therefore, to get something, you have to pay for it. Since money was invented, before people were trading, but since money was invented, that's what exists for ages. That's the global, the macro side. The micro side of it is that I grew up, as I said, in a modest family. I grew up in the banlieue, but not in Paris, in the regions, in the suburbs. So in the lifestyle, it was quite cool actually. It was not as rough as what you can see on TV, not at all. The diversity and the mix in terms of social classes was quite big, actually. And therefore, I was very quickly surrounded by, I was actually with the cool kids because when you're young, the money that you make has less matter. If you have your personality and you are outgoing and you are confident, it doesn't matter until a certain age. But I could study and see how those people live. And I was like, damn, I want that, you know? How am I going to get that? So when I was when we used to come back out of parties and I used to eat on the Sunday with some of my parents' friends, I used to say, well, but what do you do for a living? Like, what life do you have? They have all sort of life. They have doctors, teachers. So I say, okay, if you work, no matter what you choose, you get money, basic. So I can buy some stuff in my lifestyle. But then there is another level of freedom, freedom of style, freedom of time, time, and lifestyle. That freedom. And I was like, damn, this is another level that money can buy. But if I get money, I can get closer to that. So that's how it started. It was not jealousy, it was maybe grit. It's something that people don't talk about enough. We think people, when they want something, when I see something that I want or I admire in someone, and I say, I want the same thing, it stimulates my appetite to create a plan to get it. So I'm very pragmatic, even though I'm a big dreamer, but the dream has to become a goal and a plan and reality. So I get quickly into how can I get it? You know, I see the girl in her lifestyle, I see the streets, I see okay, how can I get it? You don't have a fashion diploma? Okay, I'm going to get a fashion diploma if that's what it costs. Until you realize that it's not always enough.
Hmm. So that's gonna be in the book. That's gonna be the.
That's gonna be the book. It's called in French "Tant pis pour le taf." It's like I don't give a shit about work, or how you can get closer to your freedom, and it's an ode to the youth. It's my little brick for the next generations to embrace the changes and the mutations that we are seeing in the workplace. You know, we can see all around the world. They are about it in Silicon Valley. They are talking about it in Europe. Young people are deserting. They are flying away from organizations to build their own path, and they are more and more conscious about the lifestyle they want. We are too, actually, because we were the generation always in between everything. You know, the 90s.
Mm.
We are always in between everything,
Oh,
and we are realizing that. Therefore, when I was making my studies, I realized, okay, if you look at the 100 fortunes, the first 100 people, the most um, uh, money wise, the most how do you say that?
the
Like the
wealthiest.
wealthiest. Thank you. If you look at the 100 most wealthiest people in the world, 53 out of those 100 started working at a job. That's what more people don't talk about because on the Instagram
Mm.
planet, we think that everyone makes money out of one, two, three, four TikTok videos. No, people learn working in a place that are already making money, and then they grow out of that. Um, so, and no one, it started with a dream, but no one just, I think so, maybe I'm wrong, but just slide into a job and wait for something to happen. You need to have a plan. So that's something that my parents taught me, I guess. My father, especially, you know, you have to have a vision and then you set up goals. And then it can be for your creative projects, it can be for your couple. You also have to
It's
make a
true.
plan. You always also have a vision. It's nourished by values that you have. It's nourished by the lifestyle that you want with your couple. That's something that you want to build as a family, and then you see how it works, and you make it grow. Nothing just drop off like this and just slide into life. I don't believe that. If you think that, or if you're not aware of that, life and other actors who are aware will use you to slide.
It's true. I love it. about the planification and especially the to build the vision you want for your life and where you want to go, and create those objective and small steps and actions that gonna lead you to there.
Mm-hmm.
I totally relate on that. I don't know, yeah, if it's the family or the surrounding. I guess so, but I know that I build at least for the studies, for the internships, for
Yes.
where do I want to go. Every time I had something in mind, it's like, okay, that's the first step, that's the second step. Who do I need to
Mm-hmm.
contact? How can I have this information? And always kind of anticipating the different steps to arrive more or less where I want to go. And it's true. It's one of the advice I always give to people. It's like, yeah, lead your life, lead your career, and design it according where you want to go. Because if you don't, as you were saying, life gonna take over. People, companies gonna take advantage of you,
Mm-hmm.
and the years pass, and then you want one day you wake up and you say, "What the hell am I doing here? How did I
Yes.
end up here?" And
Yes.
you look at it and you say, "That's not the life I wanted." But it's because you never really decided that what is the life you wanted in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
In the first place. Like, what life do you want in the first place? I really like the in the first place part.
that's a good one.
um,
Quick announcement before we jump back into our conversation. Working in our industry, it's such a thrilling experience. We have a worldwide cultural impact. We help bring to life amazing products and customer experiences. And there is always something new to discover and no time to get bored. However, sometimes such intensity does not make easy to take a step back and we lose sight of what really matters to us. Sometimes in the heat of action, we forget to reflect on our journey so far and to think about where we are heading to with our life and career. That's what coaching is for. It offers you a dedicated moment to think and strategize about the type of career you want to build, the kind of leader you want to be, and the type of changes you want to implement. To work in our industry is to strive for excellence, and that starts by you being able to perform at your best. So if lately you have been feeling overwhelmed and unable to think clearly, lacking motivation and seeing your performance decrease, or simply that you are at a crossroad in your career and wants to get to the next level in terms of management and responsibilities, please reach out and let's talk about how we can work together. As a certified coach, I will help you ask yourself the right questions, design powerful strategies to reach your goals, and get clarity on your priorities. So contact me on LinkedIn at Lucas Silva Edwards and let's talk during a 30-minute complimentary meeting and see how we can work together. And now, let's dive back into our conversation. I can't wait to see the book. More or less, when is it coming? Like that, people can keep an eye on them on it and order it. When do you have already a deadline?
no, to be transparent, so it's my third book. I wrote two first book, but I published them on my own. Um, we'll get into that, but I discovered my thirst for words during COVID. Like a lot of people discovered their creative side during
Hmm?
the pandemic because we had time to reflect, and therefore you realize that life pass and goes by, and that there are other things that are important for you or that you like or that you want to explore. So that's how I encounter my writing and my creative side. But I'm a very, as I said, pragmatic person. So first I was like, okay, but am I able to write anyway? Am I able to write? Is
Yeah.
that possible? So yeah, I first wanted to try out, and I didn't wanted to put any pressure on myself except my own pressure. Therefore, I said, okay, I'm going to publish myself with Amazon independently. I'm going to also extract out of my heart those really deep stories that you need to tell to be free. And it's all artists, you know, when you listen to rap music, I listen to a lot of rap songs or even hip hop and stuff and R&B. And a lot of stories come from who we are. And there are some first stories. I don't know if you remember the first album of artists that we like. Their stories are very rough. It's very close to who they are because we need to extract that. So I needed to do that. And this time for the third book, I want to do it with a publishing company. It's a different level. It's also more vocal, and they also helps you to have more distribution, like retail places,
Okay.
because it's not my field. I want to focus on the writing. So I don't want to give a date. I'm still finishing it, and I will couple it, but that I can say because it's going to be done next month. Um, it will be done also with a documentary.
Okay.
So yes, but the heartbeat is that it's a non-creative, it's non creative nonfiction. Sorry, story. So it's at the intersection of a documentary and a personal story because it's based on what I experienced, but I nourish it with facts, things like the billionaire story, because I think we went so far into the internet and social networks that sometimes people have a misconception of where how people got where they are. So they see
Hmm.
people all around the news, all around the social networks, but a lot of them, a little bit more than half for the wealthiest, started working for someone else. As
Yeah.
basic as that.
No,
So
I
no
love
date.
it. It
No date for now.
it's no, it's so cool that you give yourself the time to create, because you were mentioning before that you didn't want it to become a fashion designer, and you say I'm not interested by that, and I totally relate with that. But at the same time, it feels that during COVID, you let yourself discover more your creative side, and the medium of expression became writing. W- what kind of the origin of that urge to write? Well, how did you start it? Like, was it one day you wake up and say, "I need to express myself"? How did you arrive to that?
I've been journaling since the very young age. I'm
Okay.
also scared because I don't know where all those journals are. So I was like, the other day, I was like, I have to find them. But I started journaling at a very young age. So I always used to write my life, like what is going on during the day and why. And so when you're young, it's always about breakups and friends. And then you grow up and it's more about you navigating and what and your learnings each day. And then, you know, people tend to forget, but when you go to school, if you decide to go to do higher education, you decide to go work in the corporate world, more or less, if you go until the end and then you start your first job. Because school, university, no one, not everybody will be okay with me on that, but higher education mostly prepares people to go to get into the workforce. That's how
Yeah.
uh, contemporary societies were built. Like most of those countries, France, the US, they live out of people taxes. So for that people need to work.
Yeah. It's true.
um, so when I started studying more and then working, you just tend to forget your artistic and your sports or your passions
It's
because it's
true.
like your life gets taken over through work. It's like it's becoming your new passion, but it's a lie. Huh? You should keep on your passion. So it gets just taken over because the time, we forget, but we have a very limited time on this planet, and each day we only have 24 hours. Part of it is life, work, family, friends, and then also your energy. So sleeping, resting, eating, and all those things takes time. Writing takes time, so you have to incorporate that into your framework. And so my first book came out of I had the time because it was during COVID. But the second book, I wrote it. I was working when I came back to Besançon, and it was totally different. It didn't have the same impact that my first book because I had less time to dedicate to it. So less time
Mm.
to work on it with your community is different. So it started very young. It grew up. I let it a bit aside. But as everything that you leave aside and that you keep somewhere, it comes out at some point.
Amazing. I love it that it's always been there on you, and you kind of it woke up one day, and
Mhm.
it was there again, and say, "Hi, Laura. We need to
Yes.
talk. It's time for to let me out."
Oh, it came like a, it was not that gentle. It kicked me in the ass. It kicked me in the ass, and it was a book. It was half of a film scenario, and it
Mhm.
was a documentary. And I used those texts to apply to contests, and I was a finalist in one, and I was selected in the second one, and it all
Awesome.
happened in a year. So I was like, hey, people
Hmm.
are, it resonates into people what you are saying. People get acquainted with, they like it, so maybe you
Yeah,
have to grow that and put water on it.
yeah. I love it, and it go back to again to the fact that you go fast and you don't hesitate. That's something. Remember, I was telling you about the keywords. I say leadership. The other one that I had in mind was daring. You're always there to be yourself first. At least that's the way I see it from outside, and but also to dare project. And this one about the book, the documentary, let's say, is the latest. But if we go back a little bit at the IFM and the how you enter in fashion, what was kind of your vision at that time? What did you wanted to do? What was kind of the strategy you had in place to enter the fashion industry?
I wanted to, okay, when I was very little, next to where I grew up, it was a department store. It was the Galerie Lafayette. So for people who know, we all know the Galerie Lafayette if you work into fashion. If you don't,
Yeah.
sorry, it's not good. You need to know.
Yeah.
Um, we all know the Galerie Lafayette of Paris because they are very strong in terms of communication, especially that they have this incredible building. But
Yeah.
the power of the Galerie Lafayette at the time is that they have in several regions, smaller cities, uh, also department stores. And we had that in Besançon. And it was a place when I was going when I was little. And I was actually, this was maybe my first encounter to fashion. Not the work
Ah.
side, not the work side, not the work side though, but the paradise kind of side. And it was that
Okay.
place where they had everything, and everything seemed magical. To be honest, I don't have strong memories of what I saw, but I remember how it made me feel when with my mother we used to go in town and then say, okay, let's go to the Galerie Lafayette. It had
Yeah.
something like you're going to the chocolate factory,
Yeah. For me, was the windows at Galerie Lafayette during
Aha!
the Christmas.
The Christmas
I remember.
windows.
Yeah, I remember that. That was kind of something we used to do every year, and that's the way I encountered the Galerie Lafayette.
See how fashion can enter your life very soon, huh?
I know. They get you with the toys
Get
catalogs.
you with the toys. Mommy, let's go inside. Um, so it was something that clicked in my brain. Long story short, when I studied at IFM, you have the first part of IFM where you study everything. So it's the discovery, I like to call it.
Yeah.
So you meet all the crazy and incredible people of the industry. You get pumped. The six
Yeah.
first months, you get pumped. We all
It's
remember
true.
that. It worked. The way they built the program is very good. And then you have the 6 other months where you have to choose a specialization. And it's also, you are also hesitating, but on the other hand, it also is very liberating because you can get out of the way things that you know you were not going to. So we had three or four. We had perfume, we had retail, we had communication, and we had product. I knew I didn't want to go into product from day one. I didn't
Okay.
want to go into communication because I came from communication. I had a bachelor
Sure.
in communication, so I was like, no need to put that to go to that unless I want to be a journalist. Nope. And I hesitated with the retail specialization and the perfume specialization because I think that both were very interesting. But uh, perfume reminded me a lot of what I studied in communication advertising because it's a lot of marketing, basic strategy, strong strategy, especially the years that we did our diploma. It was the
Mm.
peaks of marketing for perfumes and this huge cash cow strategy. And I was like, okay, me, my grandmother was a retailer.
Mm.
So I think I want to go more into retail. That was the first thing. I was like, I feel I have something around retail. The second thing was that, so I did the retail path, the retail specialization at IFM, and then I realized I loved it. I love the merchandising part. We used to, because we did that together. I think you
Yeah.
remember. Yes,
Yeah.
I loved the design courses. They were
Mhm.
incredible. And it's all that you can find when you talk about retail, because retail are experience places, experience places. The experience is like houses, it's like homes, where uh, everything, it's magical, like architecture, design, uh, clothing, like it's all built to put the clothes on a pedestal. And I was like, okay, I want to get into that. Um, but when I started to look for opportunities, and before looking for opportunities, for I started to look for experiences and people in the network of the school that worked into retail, and it started by the library. And I found no reports. You know, usually all the other people, they had um, the possibility to go into the library and read people who had worked into the industry at their job, because IFM at the time was training a lot of people to be product managers.
Yeah.
Retail is famous now that we know that retail is the secret behind most of the brand. But at the time, retail was, and it was 2012, huh? At the time, 2011, 2012, retail was looked at like I don't know, the some place that is not interesting and is too much work and is not sexy enough.
Yeah.
But let's go back to my pragmatic money mindset. I was like, but I have the feeling, when I look at the people that I admire, the Bernard Arnaults, the Sidney Toledano, the Pierre Berger, and all those guys, what they do as a job is what I would like to do. And I think they work into retail. Then we meet up with, I don't know her name again. It will come back to me later. But it was, yeah, it was Tanker de Lalin. I don't know where he is now. That I don't have that in mind. But at the time, he was working at Printemps, so the challenger of Galerie Lafayette, and he came to do a course, and I was like, damn, this I like. I like his story. I like what he did, and he has the lifestyle that I want to have. So I was like, okay, maybe it's more where I would like to direct myself. And the cool part is that in retail, as a sales manager roles or a director roles, there were jobs, because there's a lot of stores. So I said, okay, I always like to have a little test. So my little test was the LVMH retail days. I was like, let's
Okay.
see if I can do it. So LVMH, IFM, we were a very happy, joyful group, but there was a lot of competition too. So it was always about who's going to work on the cool groups and the cool brands with the cool projects.
Good.
So I didn't have all of that, but I had the LVMH days. We were many to apply and see who would be selected to go. And they were only taking few people, I think, from our school, like 3 to 5 people. So it was three of us. There was Sabrina, me, and I don't remember about the third person. People were very shocked, and I was like, okay, maybe it's because I worked in retail when I was younger, because it was one of my job at H&M when I was a student. Also another encounter with fashion, but my story is
It's
too,
true.
it's too deep, so I cannot go everywhere. But I was like, okay, I'm selected to those days. it means that I have something that they like. I said something that they like.
That's true.
And it was incredible. It was at LVMH headquarters, Avenue Montaigne, near Avenue Montaigne. And in their building, it's so crazy because you were waiting to go into that. I crossed by some of the sons of Bernard Arnault. So I was like, damn, it's getting closer. I'm getting
Yeah.
closer. And there, I loved it because it were few tables. They gave workshops. We share like a little, how you say, cocktail during like a brunch cocktail for lunch. So you meet people from other schools, and I was like, yeah, there is something into the LVMH group that I like. I didn't work at all for them, but there is something that I liked into the way they portrayed retail because they show it was the crown jewels.
Mm.
They show it as something very important for the fashion industry, and per se, it's where the money comes from. So, did I answer your question? Yeah, my story, to get back to my story, to how I get into
Yeah, what was
fashion.
kind of the vision? So you were explaining, yeah, how did you choose retail and what
Yes,
inspired
that's
that?
how.
And the idea was like, okay, so what do you want to do now that you have that little test at the LVMH day
I said,
and the
okay, they see in me that I'm capable of managing a store, because basically retail is managing a store. When you have a
Mhm.
back, like to say back, when you have 3, 4, 5 years after your A levels, it means that you are ready to manage. They allow that. So I said, okay, I want to do that, and I want to do now. Let me try the ultimate goal to see if I can hit that, is to work in the department store, because it was a little girl dream. So let's see I can do that. And so we had those how do you say that, it was dating jobs sessions at the
yeah, the
IFM.
career fair, yeah, when the
Yes,
companies come.
which was very qualitative. We are very This is also something that was great. And there I don't even go to see LVMH, because at that time I didn't want it to work for one brand. It was something that
Mm.
I felt I would be maybe close.
Mhm.
I thought to myself, okay, I want to work some place where I can learn on a larger scale, but it's still luxury. And I'm a very yeah, I'm very professional. I hate being late. There is some values that I have, and I apply to Galerie Lafayette first. The person was supposed to they had a very decentralized way of working. So the sales director was supposed to contact me, but now that I came into retail, it goes fast, and what comes first is the client. So they didn't come back to me very quickly. But when I apply to Printemps, at Printemps Haussmann, because they had a very structured way of working, the HR came back to me very fast. She said, okay.
Mm.
And I love the job offer and the profile description. Like, what was I going to do? It was very clear. It was being a sales manager, meaning managing sales. Sales is suiting your business, so your floor and the people. And you have 55 million to run, 175 people to run, 50 brands. Are you up for it? It was very clear. And I was okay. This part is clear.
So
But now what I want
can
to
you
know,
go before you continue? Can you say it again? The offer was 55 million to a business to run,
yes,
175 people, and
yes,
50 brands, something like that.
50 brands, yes. And
So that was
170,
just yeah, just getting out of school, first job.
yes, yes. It was IFM, it's the 6 month internship. And then
Yeah.
if you succeed, they take you or not. And I did 6 months on that floor. It was the second. Retail, the department store, they are divided in divisions. And I was at the fashion division with several floors, and on each floor you have a type of fashion, so contemporary, luxury, and different type. So I chose. I didn't choose the floor because it's the director of the building that chose it, but they put me on contemporary fashion. So at the time, it was Burberry, Gérard Darel, Sandro Mage, Claudie Pierlot.
Mhm.
It was Tara Jarmon. It was Ralph Lauren. So it's a floor that is among the cash cow. The first floor
Yeah,
is the
makes
shoes
money.
floor. It makes money. It makes money. And I was like, yeah, damn, this is where I want to be. This is where things are happening. And this is where I'm going to learn so much how to manage a business unit. Because when you say you're going to be a manager and you study in fashion, it means that you're going to grow a business unit. Your business unit can be a store, it can be a sector with several stores on a geographical scene, or in the same building. If it's in the same building, it's a mall or a department store. And if it's a geographical sector, then it means that you are usually working for one brand but has several stores. So I like the fact that I could learn in one building because
Yeah.
it means not being traveling all the time. I didn't want that at the time. I loved my life in Paris. And it means also the beauty of department store that you could do cross selling. So you could make a lot of events. You could bring cosmetics into the fashion floor. You could bring chocolate into the fashion floor. You could do a lot of things. In the department store, for me, was the synonym of fun at work.
That's amazing. That's not something we hear so often. Having fun at work. What was the fun part for you in it?
It started with the mindset of my managers. They were the sales director at the time, Felipe Concalves. He was directing the whole France, like all the Printemps in France. He told me, Laura, he started like me. He started at the same post, and he said, "You want this job to be fun? Make it what you want. You have the sales manager that would just be here from 8 to 5, and who will give the stores what they want. Like they will ask for things, like uh, uh, very practical things to be able to function on a day-to-day basis, operations. And there is those who will see their business unit and say, how can I make more money? And how can I make more money using the fashion world, you know? So bringing DJs, creating experiences. We did a fashion and shoes party, and the whole building was on party. Each stores were making things. You will do sometimes some will do tastings on their stands, and things that makes the client dream all the time, and having a good time. This is fun. It's not
It's
only being in your
amazing.
store or on your floor and waiting for the people to get through the door. You also have to make them come into the store. And it goes all the way. I told you about time earlier. It's all about time. They take the time to come and see you. They want to have a good time. How do you make them have a good time? You have the core. So the sales team, the store has to be clean, the clothes has to be cool. But in this world where there is so many brands, you have to bring something else at the table. And the fun part is what I wanted to bring at the table. So he said, do whatever you want. Sales manager, there is a post, there is a job, there is a goal, but there is different routes. You choose which one.
I love it. It reminds me something when at my time at the Bon Marché that they were saying that we have a debt towards the customer because they give us their time. So we have
Yes,
to kind of repay that debt by
yes,
making the time worth, you know,
yes.
coming to the shop. So it's really like the same way of thinking, entirely aligned with what you are saying. So something I just wanted to go back a little bit on what you said. When you are a sales manager or floor manager, so you run a business unit and you manage people. So what would you say are the main skills that somebody that maybe gonna enter the workforce and say, okay, I want that route, I want retail, I think I'm cut up for that. What are the skills that you advise them to kind of develop or the mindset? So in terms of maybe in business and in terms of managing people.
For me, but I always say for me because I think that you make a
Of course.
job what you make it with your personality, but it's empathy. I'm a
Mhm.
very empathetic person, so I have this ability to put myself into the shoes of the other person in front of me. The first thing is that. The second thing is you have to be able um, to set up game rules. Is what you accept, what you refuse, what you tolerate, and the little sphere of creativity that you allow. That's the second thing. The third thing is exemplar. You have to be an example for your team. So you cannot ask them things that you cannot do, and you cannot have a behavior that you're asking them not to have. Basics.
That's key.
Because they are looking at you every day. You know, salesperson, their job, you are here to serve your team to make their job easier because they are flushing out the money. Like sometimes I would make sales, but on the floor, it was very rare. It would happen, or we would be. It was my fun part. Sometimes there's less traffic. You are here. You are discussing with a client. In the end, you are counseling her. It's fine. You're having a great time with her. You stay with her. You show her things because sometimes also you have to show to your team you're able to sell. But the key word is empathy because that's how you connect to people. It's a people job. You cannot go into retail if you don't like people, if you don't like to talk, if you are not connected to what is happening because they know. Like people watch TV, they read books. So especially in a department store who is such high end like the Printemps, so they will be talking about you about what they heard on the radio. If you don't know what's happening, you're flushed. You're done. If you don't know, then you don't know, and then you have a good time listening to your client teaching you something. But yeah, it's a people business after all because they don't need shit about what is in the store. Actually, it's not a necessity. They come out of
Mhm.
pleasure because if they just need clothes, basic ones, they can go anywhere. So if they keep coming back somewhere, it's because they're feeling great with the people that they are interacting with. So it's empathy. The team and the client. The team and the client. Today no one is everyone can go anywhere to work, especially nowadays. So what makes people from my experiences, for what makes it cool and enjoyable was always the great connection that I had with my team and with my client. I was always focused on how can I make them grow? What do they want? What are their goals? It's a business. They know they are coming to work into a business unit. They know that it's a store. Our goal is to make money each day. That's what you tell them into the briefing. You tell them about the cool things, you give them insight, but at the end of the day, they have also goals. So it's a very conscious business. They know. Therefore, if they're not there only for the money, because the job is not that easy, what can you bring on the table? And one other one, so I said what? To be an example, empathy, to have your game rules, and also, but it goes with the game rules. It's I call that it's respect. Respect for the culture of your store, of your company, because you have to sweat out what your store, what your brand represents. When you go to Dior, you see the people they work at Dior. You know, when you go, I guess in Jacquemus headquarters, you will feel the vibe. You will see the people. I want to go to the Tiffany and Co store. I don't know when I'm going to go, but I want to go. I guess that when you are in the heart of the store, you feel that you are at the Tiffany and Co store held by LVMH, and this flows out through you as a manager directly towards your team because they are in contact with the client.
I love it. Um, what I love about it is because re- you put back human and emotion at the center of your management and your, let's say, your philosophy. So I totally understand like the empathy part. It's like we go back to what you were talking about, the leadership and what your father told you. Like, yeah, you don't change people, so you have to connect with them and understand them, and you have to you're not going to convince a client
Yep.
to buy something. It's like they want to buy it or not, but you give them like you're in charge of the experience and the framework where they might or
Yes,
might not buy the product, and that's what you are in charge of the relationship
yes,
uh, inside the store, and that brand experience that you want to provide. So I love it, and I think those are great advices. Um, what would be like what no what were kind of the challenges that you had when you enter at maybe at Printemps, or even others experience in retail? Because I imagine you didn't have managing experience at that time. What was kind of the challenges that you encounter, and how did you overcome them?
I often tell this story because it was really an eye opener and changed my perspective. When I arrived at Printemps, and I was very young, I was older than the other students at IFM because I already had a work experience, but I was quite young as a manager.
Yeah.
And I think I was 26, 27, something like that. And so during my internship, to mold me as a manager, they tested me with a very small perimeter. It was on the fourth floor of Printemps Haussmann, and my team were the old schools. So my
Mm.
first team that I had to manage were five women of 50 plus. And I was me, young, fresh. And I remember at the time, Sébastien Saint-Paul, great inspiration too, he was the number two of the fashion division. And he said, okay, this is your little perimeter. You are still an intern. Do whatever you want. We have difficulties to make it do money. So go and have fun with it. So I remember it was like, okay, I'm going to show that I'm starting and that I want to create something. So I went there and I was surrounded by all those women, ladies that I know, but I never managed them because I was changing floor from I did 6 months or 3 months at the third floor and then 3 months at that floor. But that floor had many difficulties. It was brand new, but they had difficulties making money, and that had that little surface. So I went to that little surface. I met with the girls. I said, okay, I'm gonna do a briefing, and I was in the middle and like a little chef, pumped up on my heels, starting to talk to them, and then uh, so I say, okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. I very quickly say hello. I thought they knew me, but I didn't introduce myself that much. And I remember she was called Marie-Jo, incredible woman. Maybe, I don't know, 40, 50, 40 years, 30, 40 years of experience in sales. She came to me. She was smaller than me. I finished speaking and she said, okay. She just did like she nodded her head. She came next to me. She took my hand and she said, Laura, we are here to work with you. Huh? We want to support you. Lucas, I cried. The tears came out of my face because I know what she meant. Because you are young, so you want to do petit chef and give orders and directions. But actually, it's more about synergy with your team. So I got emotional because I was like, she read through me,
Yeah.
and she saw the tears, I wiped it very fast, and then she smiled and she said, we know how hard it is for you guys. We know. So just trust us. We know our job. Just let us know what is your vision, and let's see how we can make it work together. And it was my first huge lesson in management. You do everything with your team. It's no top down. We're in 2023. It's a synergy. It's elliptic. It's not a pyramid, you know? It's not top down. If you top down, it doesn't work. To give you another example, closer to where I am now, my last experience few months ago was as a fashion director in jewelry. And my regional director was very top down. When I stopped in March, after that, my whole team, they left. 1 month, 5 people leaving, because in 2023, top down doesn't work. You have to have this elliptic synergy when you work, where you work hand in hand with your team, because it's a common project.
I love it. Thank you so much for the vulnerability of that story, and and really, I think it encapsulates everything you were talking about the empathy. It's about
Mm.
being connected to your team and spirit and trust. The word that
Trust,
came into my mind. Yeah, it's that word. Like trust the
because
team, trust the experience.
trust the experience, trust the team, because each time I started an experience, I realized that the salespeople, they know more than me, because I'm a killer in management, a killer. But when I start into an organization, I did different product: menswear, women's wear, jewelry, websites. In sales, I did a lot. And each time you arrive somewhere where people are there before you, they've been there longer than you, they know the product better than you, they are sometimes better than you. But the strength of a manager is knowing his place as a manager while he's growing, and making sure that he can push and create an environment for the team to succeed into making their goals, or hitting the goals of the organization. But you need to have this clarity about where you are, who you are, and you don't always have it when you start as a young manager. You think that management is directing. No, management is not to direct; is really to manage. Take it as a simple word: manage. How are
Mm.
you making things happen? Is to manage. Management is to make things happen. So how are you going to make it happen? With who? How much do you need to get to make it happen? And that's it.
Yeah. No, it's so true that especially at the beginning we feel that we need to give direction, and in fact we need to give a vision and then come up with the plan with the team and different steps and see how are the skills of each person, and I love but what you're saying, that always keep an eye on where you are in the organization, what is your position. Don't
Hmm.
like don't always think that you're on top of the maybe the team, but you are part of it. But yeah,
Yes,
you have another role to play, that the direct sales uh, yeah, in retail, but it is a you are part of the team. You are not above it.
yes.
It's great. It's let's say somebody want to work in it, and they are in their first role of management. So we talked about the empathy to trust the team. Mm, what other like maybe obstacles can they encounter? Maybe like let's say they have a vision. How can they maybe sell that vision? Is there any advice or tips that you recommend to kind of embrace and lead the teams toward where you want to go?
They have to be very aware of the setup that they are handed in. And they have to be aware of who they are. I'm a very good, as I say, I'm a bulldozer, so I like to build. I'm very bad at maintaining things, so I like to start from scratch, like new team or sometimes new store. That was the case of Printemps. I was very good because they were refurbishing the whole store, and so I came out to bring a new behavior, new selling ceremony. So there were things to build. I'm a builder, so I knew that I was a good fit for the problems and the problematics that the store had at the time. And I left when I realized that my job was done and I was bored. So you have to be aware of that, which kind of manager you are. Very important,
Mm,
because there is as much manager there are problems and brands. And if you know your style, then you can go and search for brands in a stage where you can bring something, add value. Of course, the obstacles, it's another one, but for me, it's not a real one, but it's an excuse that often it will be brought to you, um, because you have the store, the merchandising, the client, and the team. And often to make moves, sometimes you need to invest, so you need money. But you can do a lot. That's the power of retail. You can do so many things in retail without money, but it will bring money, and then you can prove. You will need proof. Retail is a field. It's really a field. Is the field part of industry, the industry. It's less, it's a little bit, it makes dreams, the client, you don't build a dream because it's built by the brand, it's built by the top creators, the art directors and stuff. You are here to sell. You have to be very conscious of that. The people and the money. When you are a manager, you have to make sure that the sector, the people bring more money. Your added value has to bring something to the team and into your space that brings out more money. It's retail. That it's it. So money will often be an issue because usually when you arrive at the retail part, the money has already gone. But you need to show that you are able to create things that add values. So it doesn't seem like it, but creativity is something that can be necessary, but that doesn't seem necessary. So often in retail, they say, "Oh, we need for you to be able to hold your store and manage a team." And yes, but to do that in 2023, where people come and go, where clients have access to newness everywhere, they can buy on Instagram, they can buy on a website. So if they take their legs, their cars to move and come into your store, you have to bring something new. So there's creativity. It's necessary, but can be an obstacle because your organization and organization in general, except some of them, luxury is different, but in basic retail or mid luxury retail, they sometimes they don't think that it's necessary. They don't think that it's accurate in the store. They think that creativity is only for the clothes. And in 2023 is not true anymore. The main problem, the main issue here is traffic. And you have to transform that obstacle, sorry, into something that can be a motivator, because you will encounter it. I encounter it in all my positions as a manager in retail. That oh, but in retail, no more money. So how are you going to do this, and are you going to do that? There is always a way. There is always a
Love
way.
it. It's I think it's a perfect like turning point to about like what you were saying earlier, the creativity, the fact that you like to build, and I wanted to go to entrepreneurship. I know it's
Yes.
something that you care about, and I think those three elements, also the lack of money at the beginning of an entrepreneurship
Hmm.
project, uh, kind of encapsulate what it is to build something. So I want to go there next. But just before, uh, remember when we were talking before the podcast, you said that there is a limit of where you can grow into
Yes.
the fashion industry, in that it is an accessible universe, but there is some limits. Maybe can you talk a little bit about that before we jump into the entrepreneurial part of your path?
Okay. A very, very, very interesting question. First limit is the reality of the industry. Um, there is where the industry and the industry leaders and actors want you to be,
Hmm.
and there is a reality of where you can go. The glow and the shine is the 1%. Huh?
Hmm.
So the masses, they are either near the product or in retail. And in retail, sometimes it can seem very long for them to, at some point, for them to let you go through bigger roles, because those bigger roles make more money, and the people who are at the role, if they are enjoying their money, they are not ready for new talents to come yet. So I encounter a lot of how do you say that, immobilism, I think we say. I don't know if you say that, but I
Yeah, like kind
encounter
of
a lot of
stillness.
stillness. Thank you, the perfect word. I encounter a lot of stillness uh, into the industry because, first of all, it's a fashion, and especially in women fashion, there is a lot of men. So it's a big boys business. I
Mm,
always say, look at Amazon, LVMH, and Zara, who are in the top five of the retailers. Men, men,
mm,
men. Dominating women businesses. We are mostly consumers, but not in the decision part that much. So
yeah,
therefore, there is a first step. Second of all, I didn't see. I think there were no director except Paolo Di Cesare, who was an Italian, but there was no director who looked like me, like women, black women, into just the jobs just after the sales manager job, because the sales manager job, there is a lot of them. Then you
mm,
have the business director, then you have the national business directors, and then the other board and corporate jobs, like the top corporate jobs. And so I was like, okay, am I going to make it really? Because
mm,
this also is a limit. If you don't see people who look like you could be the first, but what is it going to take? You also have to be conscious of that. And I was like, okay, am I really going to go fast as I am living my life on that route? And I was like, that at that time, 2012, 2013, 2014, it was 2014, 2015. I said no, because I could see who my director was pushing. I was very creative and bringing a lot of money. So she was like, I prefer for her to stay here
yeah,
because then I can shine with her work and then I can go up. And I was like, and I'm very cool with that. You know, you have to be very conscious again and pragmatic about how the market work. Either you are naive, uh, and then you can be very hurt and it can really crush you, or you
mm,
are aware. It will hurt also, huh? Even if you are aware,
yeah,
but at least you can have options.
yeah.
So that's what happened to me. I worked on a huge operation at Printemps. It was called les 8 jours en or. It's a huge operation that makes a lot of money. The first time, my role grew, so I had to lead the other sales manager. It was another step towards me growing into the organization. And I realized that, so the first time I really messed it up. It really went bad with the other sales manager, and because I was too uh, um, top down. And the second time, I said, okay, I'm going to completely change my management style, and I'm going to build with with my peers, because they are also not friends, I would say, but people that I spend day to day with. We have good relation. We
Mm,
eat at lunch together, and so I want them to shine. I'm not I'm not here to do anything bad to them, you know. So that time we did that, and the second time it was a huge success because we all work, we're hand in hand with the buyers, who are girls too, with the buyers and us, because before it was, you know, in retail there's a lot of competition and fights between the marketing, the buyers, and the sales. But at Printemps, uh, on my level, I try to have a good relationship with all of them, because I realized that in the department store, you need them to succeed too. So it was a huge success, and so strong that my boss, and that's how I learned the hard way what the industry can do to you, is that she shadowed me. She put me aside because we had the president coming to see the operation, because he was happy he could see the money coming in. You know, they all have that on their phones, huh? And so they did all the floors. And then they had a time they were supposed to come. And I waited. So it's weird. I was supposed to be called so that I can walk on all the floors with my boss and the president, and she didn't do it. My boss, she pushed me away. When they arrived, the sales director, Felipe Concalves, he just told me discreetly, very quickly, keep cool, because he knew what was going on. He said, keep cool. Just do what you have to do. We are finishing the turn. And I said, but I waited for you guys. He said, she didn't call you. So she said, but don't worry. He told me we're walking and, talking discreetly. I have to talk at the same time, presenting to the president. Then sometimes you are with the director and say, keep cool. We're going to get her at the end. I said, okay. So I shared what I've done. And then I was so touched. It was my peer, the buyer who I worked with at the time. Paola, her name was. Paola said at the end, she said, and I couldn't done it without Laura. So she was the first one to give me flowers because she knew also what my boss was doing. And then all the directors, so it was the president, it was my sales director for France, and the store director, they all look at my boss. She was livid because she knew that she didn't do what she was supposed to do as a manager because she
Mhm.
was very afraid. It's very less women. She was in her 40s at the time. It's hard. It's hard. This is the reality of being in your career. You also are facing difficulties to keep your job, to grow steadily, because you are always challenged by new people who can come and take your spot. And if you're not confident enough, you can do bullshit. So that's what she did. And they celebrated the boss of Paola, telling it was Sarah de Culto, incredible woman, tough, very tough, but incredible woman. Sarah was pregnant with her big stomach like this, and Paola was next to her, and she said, Paola leaded everything with Laura. So she also gave me flowers.
Amazing.
And all the boss, they look at Sarah, they say, bravo, and then they look at Virginie like, and what did you do? I didn't say nothing, but it hurt so bad because of the energy and the work that I put in the company. And I thought, but lesson of my father, you cannot change someone. So if I stay there, it's gonna happen again. So it's best that I find a way to leave.
Wow.
And I left.
Full circle. We go
Full
back to
circle.
that.
Yes. You have to, there is things that we are always having for or against where our parents, but some things are true and you have to use that. And I was like, okay, either I can stay and rot there at the same spot for too long, or I can go and try to make something different.
Hey, I've got some exciting news for you. Until the end of the year, I'm offering a whopping 50% off my usual rate. That means you can get one-on-one coaching session with me for only 60 euros per hour. But here's the catch. There is only 100 hours of discounted session available. Why? Let me tell you. As a coach, I'm always looking to improve my skills and help my clients achieve their goals. That's why I've decided to pass the level 1 of the International Coaching Federation, known as ACC, for Associate Certified Coach. To obtain this certification, I will need to complete at least 100 hours of coaching over the next 12 months. And I want you to be part of the journey. So if you want to discover coaching or know someone who might benefit from it, please reach out on LinkedIn at Lucas Silva Edwards. Whether you are facing more personal or professional challenge or want to get clarity on your next career move, I will be able to help. I have experience in a wide range of topics, including self-confidence, work-life balance, team communication, as well as management and leadership. And if you are going through a career transition or need help assessing your skills, that's one of my specialties. Again, reach out on LinkedIn at Lucas Silva Edwards and let's talk during a 30-minute complimentary meeting.
And I realized there was a loophole in the business. Young designers couldn't get into department stores because the old business model was you need to have 200,000 euros upfront to launch your collection. Most young designers don't have that. Therefore, I said, but wait, what is a department store? It's just a place with spots, good energy, events, and clients. Am I capable of creating that somewhere else? That's how my story in entrepreneurship started. It was the boom of what we call in French tiers-lieux. It's like incubators, accelerators, places that are living spaces in between work and life. But most of them had difficulties bringing people there. So I used that, and I used hotels, telling them that I was going to leverage that image by bringing traffic. And I did it. It was called Ethipop. And I was like, okay, I have to be on a niche, because if I'm where everybody else is, there is no value. And there was a lot of people already doing pop-up stores. So I said, okay, I'm going to focus on what I think is going to be the future, because it was in 2011, 2012, it was the boom of the Slip Français, of Cézanne, all those brands that were focused on craftsmanship, made in France, or sustainability. I was like, yeah, but let's gather all those people together and show that it's cool. And that's how it started. So I started showcasing brands that were doing very cool things. It's just that they had no place to meet with their clients or to sell directly yet, because now some of them grew up. And that's how my route to entrepreneurship started. So I did that for 3 years. And then I also learned the limits of entrepreneurship in Paris. When when you're an entrepreneur in Paris and you have no money, I started with €1,000. I went up to 30, 40,000 steadily. I did a lot of things alone or with freelancers. And thank God, with the brands and with social networks. So I was taking care of the communication. I had some communication hack strategies, bringing the traffic on the pages of the designers. Then all they were posting, so it would bring people to the event, and all those people we will see all the designers, and then they will buy. It was a huge success, especially on the Christmas period. It led me also to be the partner of a brand, Les Récupérables, for a year. And then, but I'm always about the added value. And after 3 years, designers, department stores starting to do things around sustainability and their own pop-up stores and their own conferences and stuff. And I was like, okay, no more added value for me. I open a door. It's cool. Let me switch. So I rebranded. I stopped all the retail part. I focus on the coaching and consulting part. And my focus was, okay, you have to teach innovation in fashion and sustainability in fashion to the new generation. So I was doing that in many schools, as school programs, and was coaching and consulting for few brands who are growing. So I also did that. It was called Phoenix Brain Rising. I did that also for 3 years, and then boom, COVID.
COVID,
I did
the
that for 3 4 years.
infamous COVID.
So it was 8 years of independency, entrepreneurship, visibility, and bit of money. I was living my life, and then COVID.
It's true. COVID changed everything, and I want to go back quickly in one of the things that you talked about. Of course, the entrepreneurship, and we can double click on that because there is so many topics on it. But to end up with the story about the Printemps
Yes.
and and the limitations, and uh, and I think it just go
Ah,
back to
yeah.
also to your story about management and what does it mean to to build something with the team. And it's true that sometimes you have some managers, bosses, um, that they forget that they need to put their employees or teammates, let them shine, because if they shine,
Mhm.
the boss shine as well. It's not something negative for them. And it's always go back to the empathy and how confident you are about your own skills and your own philosophy, because
Yes.
that's exact your example is the perfect example. Is like, okay, I don't feel appreciated here. I don't see like people trying to help me grow inside the company, so I'm just gonna leave. And
Yes.
it's worse because you were the money maker. So it doesn't make sense at all to try to, uh, n- yeah, don't give the credit where it deserve to somebody that, brings a lot of value to the company just
That's
for
the thing. The value.
egotistical reasons. Yeah. So I think it's
There is a great, there is
important.
an author that I love, that can, that can go back to the limitation, because ego is one of the huge limitation that you will find in organizations. And thank you
Hmm.
for bringing this up. Ryan Holiday. A lot of people know him. Some people don't, but I love him.
I
I'm
love
a
it
stoic.
too.
I'm a stoic as well. I think it also is a philosophy that really helped me to But I didn't read Stillness is the K though. But I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the
I
best one.
read Ego. Really? Okay, I read
I think
Ego is
so.
the enemy. Obstacle is the way.
Yeah,
Definitely. Ego is the enemy. And I'm reading
yeah,
The Perennial Seller at the moment, which is
it's
one of
true.
his first books.
Yeah.
I'm inside. So I love this guy. And ego is definitely a limitation that you will find, especially in places where money is made. And the question you have to ask yourself is it bringing peace to me to go into conflict? What is going to bring peace to me? Do I have an impact if I'm going to war against my organization? What can I
Mm,
really change? You cannot
yeah,
change the people. You cannot change. As long as you repeat that, you will be safe. You cannot change the people
it's true.
around you. So, how are you going to function in order to hit your goal? Each time you get into the company, you have to have a clear goal of what you want to do in it, and where you are going with it. So I knew also that Printemps was not my life job. If they had helped me to grow into the organization, I could have stayed a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I was very aware of how the market in the industry was structured. And you
Mm,
see, Paris is a place where you can do a lot of things, but when you go back to smaller cities, you also realize the difficulty to go from the floor to the headquarters. It's like they don't want people from the stores to grow into the headquarters. It's something that they
mm,
don't want. Why? I don't know, because they are the best, but in some organizations that is the case. It's like it's not the we don't mix the people from the floor from the people from the headquarters, and I don't know why. But yeah, ego is definitely ego. Ego is one of the worst thing you will find as a limitation in the organization. And also, what did I find? So I told you people looking like me, ego. What was the other limitations?
I would say jealousy in some way, no? Sometimes
Sorry.
jealousy. Sometimes they.
Yes, but you cannot control. This is another lesson, but it's not for my father. You cannot change people, and you cannot control how people feel or how, like it's external. The only thing you can
It's
control
true.
is yourself. As a manager, this is
It's true.
something you really have to keep in mind. So I suffer from that, because when you start as a young, especially when you are young, you want people to be not your friends, but you
Mm,
think it's like that, you know. Me,
mm,
I take jobs and organization like another playing field. So I like to have this great energy and way of feeling with people. And I actually sometimes encounter that, but in the end, I was like, okay, well, people always want things they don't have, and if they
mm,
are not align with themselves, I cannot do nothing for them, and I'm gonna waste time, because it already happened to me in the past, trying to make them feel comfortable and confident, while you are only trying to do your own things and your own life, and not trying to. If you're always trying to make sure that other people feel at ease, you will be the one not being aligned with yourself. So at some point, I just try to. You have to be maybe discreet. I don't know, efficient, but don't brag. It's useless. Your results, especially in an organization, they will speak, and then use them at the right time to push when you want to get another post. That's what I did. and I saw that the push was not successful, I left.
Yeah. I
But
think
you have to be very
it's a
clear of
good.
what you are getting, what you want to get. You have to be
Yeah,
very clear on that.
exactly. It's true. It's true. And it just go back to what you were saying. You cannot change people. You cannot change organization. And sometimes, especially I think at the beginning, we give a lot of ourselves or energy to the job, and it's almost become part of our identity. And that's where we sometimes get our value from.
Yes,
And we confuse that we are not what we do. We are way beyond that.
yes,
And um, and because of that, and that's my opinion. Because of that, we try to bring more value to the organization, as you know, new project, new ideas, new things. But we forget that sometimes the organization is not ready for that. That's not It's not
yes,
aligned with where they're going, and we feel frustrated, and
yes,
we disagree, and we start to feel bitter towards a manager, toward the organization. And it's human. It's part of how we feel, and it's totally, let's say, normal to feel, to have those feelings. But I love what you were saying, that it's also, you need to be honest with yourself. It's like, would I grow in this organization if the things are like that? Would I be able to change them for where I am? And if the answer to those questions is not, it's like, okay, it's maybe time to move on, or to reassess how I can bring value to the organization. But that's up
yes,
to you. And we go back to that idea of, what is the vision? What is the plan? What are the steps? And it could be
yes.
inside the organization or outside. But you are the one in charge of that, to answer that question, not the organization.
No. And there is change, there is growth, and there is evolution. Growth and
Mm,
evolution is in your control. Like, but change, no. Change occurs because you work on how things can grow and evolve. Evolve. The word is very important because you are going from somewhere to somewhere else, and you have to
mhm.
see. You always have those seminars once or twice a year in an organization where they present the results and then the vision.
Yeah.
I was very aligned with the evolution of Printemps. So
Mhm.
things were so easy because they wanted to compete with the big boys, the big department stores on the world was worldwide scale, which meant at the time, sorry, okay, they want this and that, I got to do it. They wanted to do entertainment because they wasn't doing any. Okay, I'm gonna do it because that's what the other big boys are doing. I had reference points. You have to be very observant and analytical about what are the problems and the problematic that your organization are hiring you for, because you are
Mhm.
hired because they see something in you that would be able to solve a problem that they have. It's very simple and it always comes to that.
Yeah. Oh, that's why align everything with the organization. And
Hmm.
if we continue on the more entrepreneurial path, what are the advice you could give somebody who say, okay, I'm done with the organization. I think I did my time. It's time for me to, create my own value. What advice would you give after 6 or 7 years of entrepreneurial project?
Oof, know yourself.
Mhm.
Being a hustler is hard. You know it, Lucas. So
I'm
I
trying.
was
I'm
hustling for
discovering.
18. Yeah. It's as hard as being in an organization. Both are hard because
Yeah.
both has have sorry their advantages and disadvantages. Both have things that will push you outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And for sure, being in an organization is the security. You have a chunk of money coming in your pockets each month, but there are a lot of constraints and frustrations and rules and regulations, obligations and responsibilities that comes with the job. And entrepreneurship, it's freedom of time, of course, but clients get your time. So unless you build businesses that don't depend on that and that depend on making money while you sleep, so it's investing or it can be information, the whole training and education business online. Unless you sell while you're sleeping on a level that makes you live, you are always dependent or codependent of something, either the organization or your clients. So somehow, or the platforms, because you have to push your content. And entrepreneurship is also dealing with yourself. It's also dealing with your capability and capacity to focus, to stay concentrated, to manage your time, to you will have to do and make compromises with your family, with your friends. The level of rigor. When I used to lose money on my floor working at Printemps, poof, it's not my money. It comes up, it comes down. We do a briefing, we throw solutions, we try. It doesn't work. We do our best. It's a people business. So the organization depends on the people, but they cannot blame the people. They do their best, or we try. When it's your business, a day money doesn't come, and you are on a certain level of bills getting
Yeah.
out, you need to get that money in, and there's no relaxing thinking, oh, tomorrow it's gonna be. No, you have to find a solution now, because time is the only currency you cannot allow to waste. It's a different, but the upside is, and it's another limitation in an organization, you will always be limited to a grill of salary. In entrepreneurship, it's unlimited. If tomorrow this podcast hit 1 million listeners, the power of transformation is huge. And maybe just being on a radio station in a radio company will never bring you that. You get
It's
what I
true.
mean? So you have to be very aware of the lifestyle, your goals, and also what your personality and mindset and what is joy for you. Building things,
Mm,
as I said, bring joys to me. So I was already an entrepreneur at Printemps. I did so many
it's
things that
true.
I built that didn't exist until I came to touch the limits of the organization. And I was like, this is too much. I cannot go further. I'm leaving. But in entrepreneurship, it's limitless. My only boundary is myself. So
I think those are great words to finish this conversation. Laura, thank you again for your time, for your
you're
wisdom,
welcome.
for your vulnerability in your stories and your transparency about this your journey and the reality of this industry. It's been such a pleasure to talk to
A
you
great time.
again, and thank you for everything you gave during this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Lucas.
Did you feel it? Did you feel that passion and energy that makes Laura such a charismatic leader? I believe this conversation has been one of my favorites so far. Authentic, vulnerable, full of gems, and practical advice. So, what can we keep from this conversation? Number one, working in this industry is tough. So, you need to work on yourself in order to learn fast, to bring value, and to increase your capacity to overcome challenges. Number two, remember that managing and leading is not about changing people and expect them to do what you want. It's first and foremost a collaborative act, where empathy is key and where fostering the uniqueness of each member of the team is fundamental. Number three, get clarity on where you are going and in which context you are in. Always strategize on how to leverage this context toward your own personal goals. And keep in mind to really take the time to choose the battle worth fighting for. If you are still hearing this, thank you so much for tuning in. I know how much your time is valuable. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. This is the most efficient way to help us grow and entice people to listen to the show. If you have any question, comments, or requests, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Until next time, I wish you a wonderful day.